dinner by signed consents.
And we're live. Welcome to the Conversations with Friends podcast. I'm your host, Nick Worley, and this is a special edition. This is a Pacers edition on the eve before the game one of the 2025 NBA Finals. And our boys finally made it. We're back after 25 years since we played the Lakers back in 2000. I've assembled a group of good friends, big Pacer fans, and we're going to talk about that tonight. So thanks so much for joining, guys. Welcome.
What's
Great to
going
be
on,
here.
Willie?
Thanks for having us, Worley.
Fuck yeah. So cool. I expect us to have like 50 views total on YouTube. So just have fun tonight. Okay. So I just, here we are. I've been listening to podcasts all week about the series, and it seems like people aren't giving the Pacers much of a chance against the Thunder. So kind of first thoughts, our road to get here. Do you guys, what is it about this team that makes us special? What do you guys think, based on our run, has helped us get here? And just general thoughts about this team. Would love to start. Whoever wants to go first, go ahead.
I'll go first because I'm going to use the phrasing I've used to describe it, like people who don't watch the Pacers as much. But the term I always use, like, and I'm not a science person, but like the team offensively has this inertia where like the ball moves, it continues to move. It's just like a cyclone constantly. And I feel like that has been the biggest catalyst throughout this whole process of teams haven't been able to disrupt that, right? And so like at the end of the day, like, yeah, Halliburton's the engine of that, but like I think it's very infectious for people to know that if they maintain that inertia, the ball will find its way back to them. And so it doesn't ever turn into hero ball. And so I think that's between their athleticism and their continuity of having a couple years together. I think that is what makes them special. I'm going to add one other thing here. I think the challenge with the series and why you say people's not giving us much of a chance is that unfortunately the Thunder, I think, have all the right recipe to disrupt that inertia.
Yeah.
And the question in my mind is like, can we overcome that? And I mean, I'm not the most optimistic, but I do think this team's special. So let's see what happens.
Yeah, sure thing. Waltz?
Yeah, hold on. Go ahead, Kevin. I'm
Yeah.
gonna pull up
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw up a
Yeah,
picture
no, I can go. No
that
worries.
goes with the inertia. It's a chart showing the ball movement versus player movement of all the 30 teams, and it'll prove this
All right,
point.
cool.
So I'll share this picture 1 second.
We got
Yeah,
Kevin, aka Tony East over there.
I was gonna say, yeah, I was actually gonna start with him. Yeah, the dude says it perfectly all the time. It's random to the defense. It's not random to the Pacers, but that's what makes us special. No one's been able to figure it out. It's just constant motion, people moving the ball around, always getting a good shot. We have some of like the best looking offense I've ever seen. Reminds me of the old Warriors, kind of just moving the ball around. Everyone on the team is buying in, which I think is huge. They seem to genuinely like each other on the team, which we've known in the past. We've had the rumors with like Paul George sleeping with other people's like all that, okay, yeah. So I feel like it's a completely different vibe on this team. Everyone seems to be buddies, buying in. They know if you work the ball around, your shot's going to come. They're happy scoring 30. Like Halliburton, he might drop 30 one night, but he's also fine doing 15 and 14 and winning the game. Well, they do what it takes to win, and they're pretty selfless as far as NBA players go. And I mean, the results speak for themselves. So I think we have a chance. Of course, we're the biggest underdogs since Rip Hamilton won to like, if we would win, we'd be the biggest underdog to win since Rip Hamilton in 2004. So with the
2003.
Pistons, so 2003 with the Pistons, yeah, because that was a brawl was 2004. But yeah, so I think, I mean, it's exciting, obviously uphill battle, but I wouldn't count us out. We've been an underdog every game, pretty much, other than maybe one, and here we are.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely want to like the friendship thing. What Miles says is like they have fun playing together, and you can tell in the court. Like what I think one of the biggest things takeaways is like look at Thomas Bryant. He is a 18th string center that is having
Yeah.
to play second string minutes, and he lost all 95% of his minutes in the Knicks series because he could not stay on the floor because he was getting torched. He was the biggest hype man on that bench. And when he got to come in game 6 and he was playing hero ball and he was hitting those shots, everyone was so happy for him. And even Pascal called it out in the post game when he won the MVP. So like, it's fun. Like when you're watching them, you're just having fun. I know Gary and I we texted all year long a random game. They're like, oh look, they're playing Orlando on Tuesday night in February, and I'm probably bothering him with text about the game till midnight. But they're fun to watch. You feel very involved. Um, and I want to share my screen. Oh, can't share my screen. So never mind. But there is a triumph of collaboration ball movement chart,
Yeah.
and the Pacers are the furthest top right corner of player movement and ball movement
Uh-huh.
um, over the entire regular season and
Yeah.
playoffs
I
of
just
any.
I just allowed it, so go ahead, throw it up
Oh
there.
yeah, let me share this here so you can see it. But yeah, here's the Pacers. They do the most player movement and ball movement, and that inertia that Garrison called out there. That's what makes them dangerous to anyone and can beat anyone. Because
Yeah.
especially if their shots are falling,
Mhm.
they're going to make shots. Like
Uh-huh.
they're going to be hard to get. And one thing that they probably won't be able to do as much against OKC as they do about the others is the runouts. So if you look at Tim Legler did a really good breakdown, but so did Tony East and a few others of showing like it's not just fast break points that they score. It's even after made baskets, where even after a made basket, they're at least like Pascal or someone else is already sprinting down the court and looking for the open pass, like to get behind the defender. So they're able to get the ball, like Tyrese is able to see, get the ball down the court, where then it's just a one-on-one that you just have to beat your one man. So that like speed that they run, I know OKC is fast too. I'm not saying we're going to be outrun and gun them and wear them down, but I do think there's an aspect of the ball movement we do versus OKC is not a great shooting team. If you looked at their run through the playoffs, also they have been pretty poor in their shooting splits, and I think we can take advantage of that. Where if we're having our good shooting night, yes, they're going to get theirs. They play really good defense, but I think our ball movement and our player movement is really going to be beneficial in that, in not really having to rely on our defense also in transition, but being able to put points on the board that their fast shooting won't be able to keep up with because they do struggle at times from the field.
Yeah. It's a cool graphic. I mean, I see the Bulls
Yeah.
and Warriors on top, and then on the far left there was the Knicks and the Celtics, which are a lot of ISO ball. But let's just talk about the last series for a moment. I have a take that if we wouldn't have won game one, it would have been a much more competitive series. I think the whole momentum shifted in that moment. I think that was, at least for me, one of my favorite games of all time. The fact that Halliburton again backpedaled like last series to the 3 point line, shot it, and it goes about 30 feet in the air, drops down. One of the points that I wanted to make was what makes this team special is our resilience in that moment. We kept that momentum and we won the game. If you remember in 2013, there was the Paul George dunk on Birdman, and I remember just jumping out of my seat back at West Lil. And then on the very next play, Paul George lets LeBron go wide open for a layup. I'm not saying that it's not a comparison. It's just the fact that we continued to keep the pressure on him in overtime and won that game really shows the resolve of this team and is a testament to some of the stuff you guys were saying. So,
Do you also remember what happened right after that play where they were dapping it up at half court,
oh
like
yeah,
LeBron and PG, buddy, buddy? So,
yeah, I remember
like,
that.
that's a whole different atmosphere of like, this team is talking trash the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Nimbard is getting headbutted by Brunson. Brunson should have been kicked out of the game in game 6.
Yeah.
He got him to pull a John Starks. So, I mean, this team talks trash. Look at McConnell just getting under people's skin. That 13 team, like Lance would get under people's skin.
Mm-hmm.
David West wasn't taking any crap, but Paul George just wanted to be their buddies and
Yeah.
wanted to show.
Yeah.
Oh, 76ers legend, Paul
Oh
George.
yeah. No, podcast legend.
Yeah.
Maybe he'll listen to this.
Did you see speaking of Paul George, did you see that article about how both teams are benefiting from Paul George wanting out and how they both have made it farther than he ever did? I was like,
Yeah,
that's a pretty
this is
hilarious article. Yeah.
the Paul George trade
Yeah, Paul George.
finals.
This is Paul George trade finals. Yeah. It's amazing. Yeah. Hilarious. He's never even been this far. I
So
love that.
Garrison, I know that you got into Area 55 like 15 years ago. And just thinking about the last 25 years, the Pacers are unique because we never really rebuilt. We never really tanked. And that's just part of how our organization does it. But we went through several iterations after we went to the finals where we had chances. I mean, we in '04 there was the brawl. We were the best team in the league that year by a pretty large margin, at least in the Eastern Conference by a record. And a lot of those players think we would have won it. Then we had the kind of the Jim O'Brien tough years. I think I had that right. And then we go to the Paul George kind of Roy Hibbert era, and we went to the Eastern Conference Finals twice in a row and lost to the LeBron teams. Since then, there have been some kind of just tepid years, but here we are again, never really missing the playoffs. We missed the playoffs 2 or 3 times, but never to the point where we were one of the lower teams. So I just wanted to kind of open that up to the floor. It's been a long journey, but it's just so cool to be here after so many years of getting so close. And if we lose the finals, it's a huge, in my opinion, achievement to be here. But what a wild ride it's been for most of our adult lives.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I think we sometimes forget, like, some of those, there were some lean years. People like to talk about they didn't bottom out, but I mean, the reality is, after the brawl, there were several years, anywhere between 3 to 4 years, I haven't looked it up, where, we were just kind of like an eighth seed or just barely missing the playoffs. And it was kind
We
of
were the
year after
Bulls.
year. Right, exactly. And then, what got us out of that at the end of the day, I think we drafted Hibbert maybe, and Hibbert came from, I believe, if we're going through the history here, Hibbert came from the Jermaine O'Neal trade, I
He
believe,
did. He
because I
was
think he
a
was the
Yeah.
18th or 21st pick, something like
yeah.
that. And then
Hmm.
Paul George would have been like the 10th or 11th pick, because I think he was the pick
He
after
was
Hayward, because I remember being at the draft party and everyone wanted Hayward, and Hayward got picked by the Jazz, and then we picked Paul George, and we were like, who is this guy from Fresno? But
Uh,
Yeah, I
like
was with you. I
it
remember
was
that.
tenth
Yeah.
pick. Tenth
it was
pick.
us, like, striking,
We were
fire
mad.
there. We signed David West for that next iteration, and then traded the pick that became Kawhi Leonard for George Hill, and that was the team, right?
Yeah.
And then you then, after that team kind of fell apart after David West left and what have you, but you still have Paul George there. We had those couple years where like the eighth seed or the seventh seed playing like the Raptors, right? And we played them tough. And then Paul George, declares a trade, asks for a trade, and then all of a sudden we end up trading him for Sabonis and Oladipo, and we had that great first year together. Then Oladipo gets hurt, and then it all falls off the rails at that point
yeah,
because we had two straight top 10 picks between that end up being Mathurin and Walker. But if you go through the chronology, like, it wasn't really until that point that we actually, like, quote, bottomed out. But I don't think people think about us bottoming out because we had Halliburton. Like, we were like there was a light at the end of the tunnel. And so I think that's obviously the big driver here is like, hey, we didn't completely get a top, 2 or 3 pick, but we had Halliburton, and we knew we were pairing him with all these
yeah,
other players we're bringing in.
yeah. Some would say that our front office is one of the best in the league because free agents don't come to Indiana. We have to build them through the draft through trades, and for us to keep striking gold on our draft picks. There's the Leafs in there, which we all feel strongly about, but
Oh, yeah.
we're able to we flipped Sabonis for Halliburton, and all these teams at the national media again. Oh, this guy was available. We didn't see him. Well, we did, and we pounced on him and we got him, and here we are. So, and
Look,
I totally missed the Oladipo years. I mean, I think he won Most Improved Player, and then I think we had
he
Nasty.
a
did.
couple runs there with Oladipo.
Well, we had
We had
that
one
7 game
run.
series with
We had one
Cleveland.
run. Yeah, the
Yeah. It was
Cleveland
wild.
first round. We took them to 7, and they didn't call the goaltend on LeBron.
Right. Yeah.
Um, I will give you a stat here too. Is that I'm pretty sure the Pacers are the organization with the least amount of top 10 draft picks, and that they drafted, which shows that like we're every year
Mm-hmm.
pretty competitive enough to
Competitive,
make the
yeah.
playoffs where we're not in the lottery. So like we did have those back to back with Mathurin and Walker, but before that we were always, Paul George was 10th. I think Miles Turner was like 14th or something. A lot of these players, but if you look at our current roster, it was all trades. Like pretty much we have the entire Halliburton draft class because we have
Yeah.
Halliburton, Toppin, Naismith. Nimbard was like the year after that, but it was a second round pick. Um, I really give a lot of credit to the front office for what they've done and put this together because they looked at Halliburton and they looked at his skill set and they said, you don't have to be this MVP, score the ball, be a point score, like a first point scorer guard. You're going to be a facilitator in the engine and drive this and be the engine. And they put all these players like, if you like the Pascal trade, I think that's you gave up
that put
what
us
a
over the
smart
top.
move to
Yeah.
give Bruce Brown that money
Yeah.
that the Nuggets could never do, and you give them all that money, and then you're like, because we're going to use it as a trade because it's an expiring contract, and then they were able to get Pascal and give up what a couple picks that didn't account to
They would
anything.
have been late first rounders. Yeah,
They
it
were
was an amazing
20th
trade.
picks. Yeah, we have one
And,
more
like,
pick to give them. It's 26, but it doesn't matter. It's going to be a late pick.
there's no other all-star that wants to come play in Indiana that is like, especially
Right.
plays like the way he does, who's pretty like, he's fine scoring 10. He can also drop 30. He's Eastern Conference Finals MVP. We traded for that. That's insane.
Yeah. But like
Traded for him, yeah.
but what like to Alex is saying, you know, post the brawl, those years where our best players were Danny Granger and Troy Murphy and
Yeah.
you know, Mike
Danny
Dunleavy
could light it
Jr. and you know, and Dante Jones hitting people in the nuts and stuff, you know? Like we still were 35 to 40 game win team, so we were still the 8th or 7th seed. Yeah, we'd lose to in the first round, but like okay, now we're picking 15th. You know, we're picking 16th. It's like there was not much. The Pacers were putting people in seats, and well, didn't we have the longest home like positive winning or not winning streak, but winning record
above
at home?
500? Yeah.
We were above 500 at home until like 3 years ago when we just really bottomed out.
I think that was the first year in forever. Yeah,
which
we
led
didn't
to
have a
the
winning home record,
to the Tyrese trade and everything. But it's like that was the first year since like 1980 something that we were sub 500 at home. So I think that the Pacers have always been somewhat competitive, which makes this team even more entertaining now that we're in the finals again.
It's
And
like
Brady comes off the top rope right now.
we got a late
Boom, baby. What's
Oh.
up, boys?
We got
Celebrity guest.
We got Garrison calling in from his hotel room on a work trip. Brady joining just to be here to just talk about the Pacers.
Likewise, Garrison's in my hometown, Nashville, and I'm in Traverse City, Michigan, and the internet is terrible.
Traverse City, wow.
Yeah, up the great north. It's about 52 degrees on this June 4th day, so that's lovely. But it's a pretty nice spot.
So we started off talking about what makes the team special. You can give us your one or two sentences on that. What do you think, Will? What makes this team fun to watch and special? Why are we here?
Yeah, well, so this team, I'll be honest with you, I didn't watch a lot of the regular season just because this NBA season in particular, I thought was just there wasn't a lot going on. And usually, like I'm pretty engaged, at least with the Pacers. Obviously, busy with work and whatnot. But this team's got a kind of a special place in my heart because from 2021 to 2023, I actually lived with Tyrese Halliburton's agent during that time, and I remember when he got awarded from CAA. A few guys, Josh Hart and Myers Leonard, a real A+ player, but he was super stoked, and they're like, yeah, they're going to give me like the full agency, offering to sponsor and be the main guy for this guy Tyrese Halliburton who got drafted by Sacramento. And I remember when he got traded to the Pacers, both Dave and Tyrese were so stoked because Dave was like, you don't understand. Like Sacramento is such a dumpster fire and has been a dumpster fire for so long. Like Indiana is such a better run organization. Tyrese couldn't be happier. But yeah, so Tyrese obviously he's the special guy, but even like Ben Shepherd, like some of these like 7th, 8th, 9th guys are just unbelievable. So very big
sure.
team.
One of the things I brought up was game 1 and how just an amazing game it was. At the end of the game, they interviewed Neesmith, who had hit 5 out of I think he went 8 of 9 on threes, and he goes, "I know I'm an elite or excellent shooter, so I'm going to make that." Like him, Shepard. I mean, our team can just shoot. A lot of players in the NBA can, but they knew that they could if they put shooting around Halliburton, and then I think we just talked about it. Once we got Siakam, there was a lot of glue there too, and to be able to keep Miles Turner and stuff. So it's just a super fun team to watch. On Halliburton, though, some say that he sometimes will kind of fade into mediocrity some games where he won't shoot enough. Other times he gets criticized for shooting, being almost too aggressive or taking bad shots. What do you guys think of that? Kevin, why don't you take that one? Because you talked about Halliburton a bit. Like, Do you think that he's someone that should be super aggressive every game and go for, say, 15, 20 shots a game at least?
I don't think every game. I think he's really good about understanding what needs to be done to win. And there are definitely times where I'm watching him be hoping, wishing he would be more aggressive. But overall, I mean, the dude's a winner and he knows some nights he does need to drop 30, like I was saying earlier. But he also, if Neesmith's on fire, like during the run, during that comeback, he's just getting him the ball. Like he's just get the hot hand the ball. He doesn't have to be the hero, and he ended up being the hero late. But like he knew that he didn't have to take the other shots because Neesmith was not going to miss. So like that was he just knew he knows how to find the right guy. He moves the ball around. I just love his game. I mean, I'm obsessed. I mean, our team, for example, in the playoffs is shooting over 40% from three. So if Halliburton gets you open, he knows it's going in. So I don't think he has to always shoot more. At times we do need him to step up when the offense gets a little slow or missing, sure. But overall, I really like what he's been doing.
Yeah, yeah. So let's move into predictions for the finals, and then we'll get into like favorite Pacer moments and other fun stuff. So I'll go first. Um, I'm gonna go with the Homer choice here and go Pacers and 7. I don't think there's any way that we beat OKC at home, more than once, and it's gonna be tough. But I think if we somehow win our 3 games at home, that we can get our 4. The keys will be to continue with our pace to somehow stop SGA. It's a Homer choice, but that's what I got.
I'll go next. It's fine. Um, I'm going to say Pacers in 6, and this is after watching all season long, watching this playoff run, and even the OKC were my I as several of you guys know, I pick my league pass darlings that I like to bet on and watch throughout the year. And the last 2 years have been OKC. This and usually it's the Orlando Magic too, but they were not as great this year. But I would say that just based off of the Oklahoma City give up the most open corner threes in the NBA, and the Pacers hit the most open corner threes in the NBA. I think that is going to be a big difference in this game with the fact that Naismith and Nembhard will be able to get with Naismith himself, most likely will pull the shy or Shea Alexander assignment where Shea will probably be guarding him on defense. I think he's going to be able to cook him, and I think he's going to be a big role player. And I actually think Turner is going to be able to roll a lot to get a lot of pop and punch on whether it's Hartenstein or it's going to be Chet on him because I don't think they're going to go double bigs a lot on against us because of the pace. But I'm going to say Pacers in 6, but I think it's also going to be determined on game 1. I think the Pacers steal game 1, and if they do, I feel really confident on that pick.
Yep. All right. Someone be pessimistic here. What do you got?
I mean, I know it's popular to say Thunder in 5. I think Thunder in 6 is probably where it's going to land, in my opinion. I mean, I just am super concerned on, Halliburton just thrives off of keeping the pace, keeping that motion going in the offense. When you see him get stuck, when we talk about when people say he gets passive, it tends to be when the ball gets stuck. Like folks aren't making shots, turnovers are disrupting the flow of the offense, etc. And I think the Thunder team is explicitly designed in order to disrupt that, including
Yeah.
the guys who are going to be guarding Halliburton and kind of like get into his flow a little bit. That being said, I think there's a willpower with the Pacers where I know it's popular to say Thunder in 5. I think the Pacers will come out fighting, particularly for game 1. I think they could I think there's a chance they could take that, if not game 2. But and I think they'll probably get one at home. But you're also going to get these Thunder games like against Minnesota, in my opinion, where they're going to win by like 20 points, where they just
Yeah.
force a bunch of turnovers, they get hot themselves. And I think the only way for Pacers to like change the tide of, not losing the series in 5 or 6 is they just have to play flawlessly and have they got to have one game where they have to shoot 55% from three, and just rain it down, play good defense. And, they're not going by 20, but they win by 5. And they got to do that 2 times, I think, and to have a chance in this series.
Uh-huh.
I just don't see that happening, but I think they can get 2. but I'm not super optimistic. I really hope I'm wrong.
Yeah, one of the stats I saw was one of our chances is the fact that OKC isn't necessarily a great 3-point shooting team. So if we do have one of those games or several where we rain it down, we have a chance. And then someone was like, "Well, Nimhard is a great defender." And someone goes, "Well, they have 4 guys that are Nimhard level defenders, in Cason Wallace, Caruso, Jalen Green. Um, they just have a lot of great players up and down their roster."
Winky
Um,
Chet.
and
Well, and we're going to be in for a world of hurt, honestly. If Neesmith's ankle is not right, because
totally,
Nimhard's too small to guard, like he's just not long enough. I mean, he'll try to guard Shea, but like Shea's super lanky, and if Neesmith isn't right, I I don't know who guards Shea. He's just going to rain down shots. So
yeah.
But
Brady,
luckily for us also with Shea, he's not a 3-point shooter. He's just like he's kind of like Brunson. You're not going to stop him. He's going to get to the rim and stuff. But I'm curious but also like the Jalen Williams aspect, because he's going to have one game where he just goes crazy.
yeah, he's a stat stuffer.
Yeah, I think the Pacers have been on a great run. I think with the momentum and just kind of the magic of the team, they have a chance to win. They keep pushing the pace. I think they throw Oklahoma City off their toes. They might be able to get 2 games. Unfortunately, even with our good 3-point shooting and their lack of 3-point shooting, we're coming up against a team those 4 regular season wins away from tying the best regular season record of all time with 72
Yeah.
wins. And unfortunately, I think our biggest weakness is we're going to get owned on the offensive and defensive boards.
Yeah.
Love Miles Turner. I don't think he is up for the challenge, or Thomas Bryant, or anybody to guard Hardenstein and then Chet as well. So I'm gonna call it Oklahoma City in 4 or in 6.
Oh, that's a sweep.
What a swing.
4.
Oh, wow,
I'll
ouch.
get it.
Okay.
2 to 4. We'll average it out at 5. I think 5 is the national consensus. What do you got, Kev?
I mean, I got to go Homer pick for sure. I can't. I got to probably say Pacers in 6. We close it out at home. I think we steal game 1, and that really turns the series. I really think what's in our favor is everyone's telling OKC they got it in the bag. The Pacers suck. They have no chance. They're 10-point dogs. We're going to kill them. I've seen that happen when the Colts are big favorites. They lay a freaking egg. And I kind of I'm hoping that the Thunder kind of get the same way. They're inexperienced. They're told they're way better than their opponent. Does Halliburton punch him in the mouth in game 1? I hope so. And then who knows? Pacers in 6 doesn't seem crazy after that. So we'll see.
We've been underdogs in every game this playoffs, and keep proving them wrong. So
I think it's so critical for us to win 1 game. I would almost say it's almost critical for us to win both games away right off the bat.
If we're going to win the series, yeah,
I agree.
Yeah.
You have to win game 1.
I think
to
game
win the
1
series. It's game 1 is the must win.
Well, and I think the Pacers style benefits them because it's just such a tough thing to prepare for, especially, you can't emulate it in practice. You can't emulate it in the previous series. And so I feel like there's a little bit of an adjustment period at the beginning of any series for teams that play the Pacers where it's like, oh shit, like dealing with that pace. But I think you can adjust to it after that. So that's why my whole thing is like if we don't come out and get that game 1, they will have been a little bit more ready for it. So I think it's essential for us to take game 1 because game 2 is only going to be that much harder not having the home crowd.
I also have faith in Rick Carlisle a bit. Like I criticized him a lot this year of like, why are you putting this
year? Every year he's been the
coach. But like he puts out some of the craziest lineups and you're like, what are you doing? Even here in the playoffs, like I would never fathom we're going to play. We played like 12 guys in the Eastern Conference Finals. That's insane that you're playing 12 guys. And there's times you're like, what are you doing with this lineup? But the Thunder struggle playing against a zone. And I think that Carlisle will probably implement a zone at most of the time because he saw what happened in the Nuggets series. And that's really what tripped up OKC. And Minnesota did not run zone like at all. They stayed with man the whole time. And Rudy Gobert, he's a great defensive center, but he's slow. And I think he struggled. And I think Miles is going to struggle, but he played pretty well against Hartenstein last year when Hartenstein was on the Knicks. And so I'm curious if like, whenever they're playing double bigs or if they take only one of them out there. Is Jalen Williams going to guard Miles, or is he going to guard Pascal, or is he going to have to go guard, like if, or is, Halliburton or Dort, somebody like that. I think they're going to throw little different things, but I think Carlisle is going to try to throw different looks at OKC with a zone, which could benefit the Pacers aspect because OKC is not a hot 3-point shooting team.
Yeah.
Well, Walt,
I know you want to move on, but
No, you're good.
I want to say to Eric, my one Carlisleism that I feel like it has a legit chance of happening with the Walker injury. There's going to be some game this series. I'm not saying every game where Mathurin just doesn't have it. There's going to be some foul trouble, and we're going to get some Johnny Furphy minutes.
Yes,
it's
I
going to
agree.
be
Oh my
it's going to be
God.
because
Yes.
he's going to get 7 minutes. Like I'm calling it. It's going to be
Please,
where
God,
Pacers are
no.
down by 12, where things aren't clicking, and I'm not saying it's going to work, but Carlisle's going to throw him out there and just see what happens.
It's the only reason Walker got
God.
run in the finals, which is crazy that Walker couldn't get any minute. Like I know he got ran off the court. He was making boneheaded decisions in the Cleveland series, but he was pretty good in the Milwaukee series. And he's a big body. But
Yeah.
he only
And
got
Furphy's
into
long.
Murphy's very long and he can shoot. So, and
Yeah.
with Walker injured, I could definitely see Furphy getting a couple minutes here or there.
Yeah. We got to have our token white guy every team. It's like Travis Diener.
We have McConnell.
Or...
And McConnell, and
really,
you can just have McConnell. We don't need.
I am actually really curious on the McConnell versus Caruso matchup. Like, not that they're going to guard each other, but I'm curious of how, like, they're a very similar style player where they get under the other team's skin of whoever they're guarding at point of attack. And I'm just really curious to watch those two white guys go up and down the court when they're in there as a second unit, just riling the other team up. It's going to be great to watch.
One of the most concerning stats I heard for kind of the ringer listeners of us, did you guys hear how when the 2 times OKC and Pacers played in the regular season, how effective Dort was in shutting down Tyrese?
Yeah.
It's not a good look all the way
It was
around.
122 possessions that Dort was on Tyrese. Tyrese had 11 shots for 8 points.
Yeah.
Well, I remember watching those 2 games, not all of them, but the eye test wasn't great. He was very disruptive. You could tell Tyrese just couldn't get in a rhythm. That's just the reality of it.
I
One of the
also,
games. Go ahead.
I was going to say, sorry, the second game in March really ticked me off with I think it was the scheduling because we had went on this like mini run. I think we were like on a 4 or 5 game win streak, and I'm pretty sure it was a back-to-back, and it was like on the road. So like that one, it was either the first one or the second one was after a winning streak, back-to-back on the road, and it was just like we were no way were we going to win that game, and we looked so discombobulated. Like Tyrese was full of barbecue from Oklahoma City or something, and like
the torture chamber. He went through the torture chamber.
All
Kenny,
right.
did you want to add something?
Let's start to wrap it up here. We're going to do, you can choose. You can have your best Pacer memory ever, or you can give me one super deep cut Pacers roster player. So whoever wants to go first.
I'll start off. I got
Go
a
ahead.
tie for 2. 2 favorite moments that I can remember. One, 2013 playoffs. Carmelo Anthony goes up for a dunk. Roy Hibbert stuffs him at the rim. I was with Daphnos. I was Shaq. I was probably with you, Garrison, and Worley. That was epic. Second one I saw live. It was in the kind of probably 2014 era, 2015 era. Our favorite player, Born Ready, gets the pass behind the back, passes it to somebody, they shoot. He gets up and does the air guitar.
Yeah.
Air guitar hump. Those are mine.
Stevenson had 2 stints with us. We brought him back a couple seasons later on like a 2-way or something. Lance. All right, who's next? Those are good, Brady.
I'll go with one. It's a deep cut for me. It's just a fun Pacer memory. And I'll see if Garrison remembers this, but a fun, very old Pacer memory is the Pacers and the Spurs played a final preseason game at Indiana University in Assembly Hall. And we all went and we sat first row right behind the basket. and it was 2009. So it was like Troy Murphy and Mike Dunleavy and AJ Price, and Jeff Foster was still on the team. I'm pretty sure. Like it was so much fun to watch that team, and then it was Tim Duncan and all the guys, but it was so much fun just to watch the Pacers in Assembly Hall, sitting almost courtside, like right under the basket. That was just a fun Pacer memory to think back and be like,
Yeah, that's
wow,
cool. I
what
didn't
a
realize that
random
happened.
thing. We watched the Pacers play a preseason game at Assembly Hall. And then that year, and the next year, it was when Alex got the Area 55. That was just I'll never
Yeah,
forget that
I
fun
didn't know
Pacers
that
memory.
happened. That's cool.
Yeah. Garrison and I went.
Yeah, I'll do a deep cut on the player because I don't know why I keep always think of this player because he was just so random. I think he came over and it's more emblematic of like one of those like middling years that everyone forgets about. But I think he came over in the Jermaine O'Neal trade from Toronto. But do any of you guys remember Maceo Baston? Is that ringing a bell?
No.
Yeah, yeah, he was like a
I remember the
random
name, but
power
not about him. I
forward,
remember the name.
random
What
power
year?
forward. I think late aughts, like 2008, 2009. And some year where I'm sure we had the 12th pick in the draft. Hell, we could have gotten the pick that picked Miles Turner from that year. You know what I? What that would
Yeah,
have been way too early.
the
But I mean,
O'Brien
like,
years.
yeah,
Right.
it was the O'Brien years. It would have, and the guy was okay. He probably would have been a great 12th man, but he was like our eighth man, and that was why we were the picking in the late lottery. But
Yeah.
I mean, we just had so many players through the years. Like why was Travis Diener getting minutes at that point? Like
He
all
was on
that
the
good
team
stuff.
when we
Yeah.
saw him
I think
at
he started. I think he was our
preseason.
starting point guard that year.
The designated
I don't
point
know if it was
guard.
a permanent thing, but I think it turned into that thing for it was supposed to be like the third or fourth string dude, but like there were so many middling teams that and I just always think about this because like people try to it's great that they didn't like tank, but like people act like, oh, they're always competitive. I'll tell you, some of those years didn't feel very competitive, like or like this is just not great.
Can you give us your experience of interviewing for Area 55 really quick? First of all,
Yeah, it's
what
the
was it and how did you get in there?
yeah, so for Area 55, it's a you get season tickets for the year for being just like a really, excited Pacer fan and you to audition in order to get that. And normally it's covered at that point it was called Area 55 because Roy Hibbert sponsored it. That was his number. I think Miles Turner and other players have done similar things since, but um, you have to audition for it. And I remember Hibbert and Paul George were the judge. It was like American Idol style. So you had to come up with some way to express your fandom. And it was the first, I remember it was the first time I ever painted my nails,
Oh God.
and, and the only time I painted my nails, but I painted them blue and a little bit of yellow, and kind of alternated. And I remember we painted our chests, and we owned so much Pacer gear, me and Alex O'Cole, that we were kind of layering on multiple jerseys since we put together a little dance routine and we had 30 seconds and we what actually worked out well was the first 30 seconds of All I Do Is Win is actually a really good snippet of a song. So to do a routine. So we were able to make it work and yeah, it was a great time. A little tough driving up from Bloomington, 41 games throughout the season, but I know a few of you guys benefited from it because I know
Yeah.
we couldn't always make it up.
You invited me once or twice, and I remember thinking like it must be tough to find someone to go to like the random Wednesday night versus the Magic or something.
Yeah, those Wednesday Hornet games were a treat.
Yeah,
As
for sure.
both teams, yeah.
I went to a lot of those with you. I think
Yeah,
that's
I
where I
went to a
found
few
my
as
love
well. Yeah.
for
Kevin, what's your favorite
Orlando.
moment? I'm curious.
My favorite moment, I was struggling there, but I was just actually talking to my dad today, and he mailed me this shirt because we went to the finals together 25 years ago. Of course, we ran into Kobe and Shaq, but that's pretty memorable. I mean, I grew up. My dad had season tickets my whole life, so
Oh
went to
yeah.
crap load of Pacers games. But I mean, going to the finals is amazing. Can't believe we're back, and went to game three last round, which sucks. I'm a jinx, so I probably shouldn't go to a game this round. But yeah, I would definitely say just being there, experiencing NBA Finals. I know I was only like 11 years old, but I was a giant basketball fan and still remember that. So, and getting to experience that with my dad was amazing. So that's
Yeah,
the
definitely my
Pacers
number
win
one
that game?
Pacers highlight.
Did the
I
Pacers win that
think
game back in
if it was
2000?
game three, I think we went to game four because we won game three. So I think we lost actually. But
yeah.
this nice older guy on the way out gave me a program so I can double check when I
There you
get
go.
back to my parents' house.
Yeah.
We won game 5 because I went to game 5. I remember
Did
that
we
one.
win 3 and 5, or those are two wins? Because it was two three
Yeah,
two back then, right?
yeah, because we won
Yeah.
game 5. We blew them out, and I remember as a kid being like leaving that game, being like, "We're gonna do it. We're gonna
Give a
win
chance,
both
yeah.
in LA,"
Yeah.
and then we lose the
Yeah.
next one.
Nope. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
What a great place Indianapolis was to grow up for our age group. We had Peyton Manning and then like Reggie Miller Pacers. It was just a great sports town. I guess
Oh
that's
God, yeah.
thinking about my favorites. I mentioned the Paul George dunk, and not everyone loves Paul George, but that dunk over Birdman, I was like, oh shit,
Epic.
that was epic. But one of the ones that's kind of a deep cut memory was we were playing the Nets in the one of the playoff series. A few years after we went to the finals, and there was this turnaround like 40-footer that Reggie hit as time expired. And I
Oh yeah.
remember the replay. I was like, I don't think he got that off, and I was like 11. But that's the kind of like energy that Reggie Miller had. Is he kind of never felt like we didn't have a chance to win. Like he would just do miracles on the court. So just generally Reggie Miller as a concept is my favorite memory. So. All right,
Yeah.
guys. Anything else we didn't cover?
Oh man,
No.
thanks for having us on.
Yeah, for
Go
sure.
Pacers tomorrow, man.
We got a variety of predictions here. I think we got 2 people saying no, 3 homers saying yes, and we'll get it done. But tomorrow, 7:30, I think it's 7:30 CST, Pacers game 1, ready to go. So thanks so much, guys.
Worley Brian's backyard's probably open if you want to run it back. So
Do it. Hopefully less rainy than today, but I'll stop.
Yeah, I think it'll be good.
We'll
Yeah, cool.
stay on for a moment after I stop recording, and we'll just debrief. All right. Thanks, guys.
Cool.
Thank you, man.